Sunshine. I'm Alexi, Lalas, and welcome to the State of the Union podcast presented by State Farm, where we look at the beautiful game on and off the field through the lens of red, white, and blue-colored glasses. For this episode, joining me, as always, my friend, my colleague, Wait a second. Alert. David Musah has been called away, as he is, because he is so special and so good at what he does. But you know what? In the halls of the Fox Soccer production here in Sydney, you just throw a ball, you will hit somebody of fame and notoriety. We couldn't find any of those people, but Jimmy Conrad came instead, all right? I'm just busting your balls, my friend. The great Jimmy Conrad sitting in for David Musah. Big shoes, but if anybody can fill them, Jimmy can. Listen, you know Jimmy Conrad from a million different things, including his day in and day out awesomeness with Women's World Cup now. Also his podcast, In Soccer We Trust, with, we got Charlie Davies and Heath Pierce. Wonderful thing. Definitely subscribe and listen to that.
Yes, go.
There we go.
Shout out to the Trust Fund.
There you go. But he just does wonderful work. I got a lot of respect for you, Jimmy.
I appreciate
for a number of different reasons. But not the least of which is that you work. And look, you've been in this business long enough. That's not always the case.
Sure.
You work hard, you work smart, and you reap the rewards. And whatever it's the accolades and the people talking about you, they are well deserved.
Thank you.
But this is the hardest working man in showbiz, my friends. Day in and day out.
I was going to say the same about you.
Well, no.
I learned it in Qatar.
No. Dealing with all the stuff that this guy has to deal with is pretty amazing. How's things going, first off, before we get into it? How's things going now?
Yeah, great. Obviously honored and thrilled to be here, a part of the family for the Women's World Cup. And the set is amazing.
Same.
And the tournament's been great. So, yeah, it's only going to get better from here, too. That's what I'm excited about.
If the people don't know you, which was my little intro there, give them a little Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, I'm your favorite former U.S. men's national team player. That's my running tagline. But I had a little engine that could when I was a player. Didn't get recruited out of high school. Had to walk on in college. Didn't get drafted in MLS. Had to kind of fight my way all the way through. And then worked my way up to playing in a World Cup. And then once I retired, Alexi, I was inspired by what you were doing. And I thought, I'm going to do what Alexi's doing. I'm going to get into the media and see what I can do. And
aim much higher, my friend. Aim much higher. Good
Well,
job.
I've gone down this rabbit hole and, used the same disciplines and habits that I had as a player, and it seems to be serving me well now.
What have you found? Because, look, we were both players, and that moment comes, and usually it's never when you want it to come,
right,
where that door closes, and that life that you have lived day in and day out goes away. Were you daunted? Were you scared? Were you excited about it? And if young people or young players are coming to you and asking you about the transition from the field off to whatever number of things, what are you telling them?
Well, I had concussions, so I had to retire due to concussions, and I had a headache for about 3 months in my last season, and it got to the point where I had to make a decision on what I wanted to do. I just had my second baby, and I'm 34 at that point, and I'm playing for a team that has zero chance of making the playoffs or doing anything of consequence. Rest in peace to Chivas USA. And it just made sense to end it there. And that was hard. When that decision was finally made, I got into the car, I called my wife, and I was crying. I couldn't even get out what had happened, that the decision had been made. And she thought somebody in my family had died. And in some ways, looking back, someone had died. My whole identity, everything I had been known for up until that point. Even my mom used to reference me as a professional athlete's son. Like, that was gone. And that took me a long time to get over, maybe 9 to 10 months, where I was just kind of in that funk. You'd still be around the game, and you'd want to be a part of the locker room and be a part, get on the field and make a difference, and you just can't anymore. And everybody starts to treat you a little bit different because you're on the outside now and not on the inside. So all those types of transitions were hard. I think the thing that I would tell young players or young people that are going through this transition is that the sooner that you can accept that you have to start from square one again, the much easier it is. Because I just thought, I played in the World Cup, I did all these things, that's going to matter. And they're like, no, that's great, but that's not really what we need you to do in this particular job. So once I accepted the fact that I had to start from the bottom, then my life became easier.
Yeah, I mean, I tell young players all the time, it may get you in the door, may open up some doors.
Right.
Yeah, it does. Players,
it does, 100%.
It's not going to keep them over forever.
Right.
And if you do see a jumping off point, really look at it carefully and long, because I guarantee you, you're not going to be one of the very, very few that gets to ride off into the sunset. It all goes wonderful. You win the championship. You have money to burn, all that kind of stuff. That's just not how it works.
Listen, once Michael Jordan, he hit the shot, right? Ended his career winning the NBA final with the shot. And when he came back to the Washington Wizards, I was like, then it just will never happen. There is no perfect ending. If Michael Jordan won't go off into the sunset with the best ending of all time, with all the money in the world and all the adoration, and go back to the Washington Wizards and struggle and look like, I don't know, a turtle version of himself where he could barely move, then there's no happy ending for any of us.
Right, got it. All right, listen, let's see if we can get a happy ending here when it comes to these teams that maybe are going to ultimately be there in the end. Okay, so last night we had England and Denmark. You know, England came into this tournament, as we mentioned, as one of the favorites, although coming in with a lot of injuries.
Yes.
And the injury bug just keeps going on, with Kira Walsh going down yesterday.
Yes.
I mean, it looks like, for all intents and purposes, she is out for the rest of the tournament. Now, teams can sustain injuries, but this one is, you know, the word that you hear being thrown around right now is irreplaceable because of what she does for England. They end up getting the 1-0 win, so that's good from a results standpoint. But as we look at this team, and after you saw what happened last night, do you think they're still contenders to win this World Cup?
Yes, they're going to be contenders. I think the experience of winning
European
something
champions,
of consequence matters. That you can fight through the adversity. You've done it before. You can look at each other in those tough moments and be like, okay, we've accomplished this. But for us to do it again is going to be a little bit harder. People are gunning for you in a different way. You have a target on your back. So that's a new challenge for them and this team. Now, they have Serena Wiegmann, who is the reigning FIFA Coach of the Year. I mean, she's the real deal. She has success wherever she goes.
She doesn't suffer fools.
No, she does not. She does not. But Kira Walsh, for me, is a big loss because she seemed to be the glue, the connective tissue between the defense and the attack, in transition in particular, and great at breaking up plays, protecting the back four. That's a big loss. And they bring in a player in Coombs who has 5 caps. And she got 2 caps 8 years ago and got 3 this year. 32 years old, kind of breaking back into the team. But with that big of a gap is interesting. So I wonder if they're going to trust her in that way to be like for like, or if they're going to go to a double pivot and try to sit 2 holding midfielders to try to accommodate their situation because they have all that. I don't think there's enough. I think they're going to run out of luck. They're kind of eking by 2-1-0 wins. I have a lot of respect for their team. I just don't. They're not the best team here. If everybody was healthy,
right,
then I think, yes, they're in the conversation for sure. But because they're missing so many key factors, it's going to be a lot more difficult.
You know what sucks about this, Jimmy? Is that when they get their ass kicked, all right, there's going to be all these built-in excuses. And when it happens, I don't want any excuses. I want to be able to look at them and say, you're done, you're dusted. Because I've told you before, if England somehow get it together and win the World Cup, and at the expense of the U.S., can you believe how insufferable? Can you imagine
they already
what
are,
they're like?
so.
Exactly. So when they lose in this tournament, I don't want them to say, yeah, but we had the injuries here and we didn't have this, and we'll get you next time and all that kind of stuff.
But won't we be saying the same thing if we don't win it?
Yeah, but we're Americans, okay? All right. Well, listen. They continued on, like I said, with the results that they needed to get, not impressing everybody, including the two guys here. But there are teams that have kind of slow burned through the group stage and then come alive, and there are teams that have come together despite losing players and injuries and all that kind of stuff. But there comes a point too where there's only so much that you can do, even for a great coach like Serena Wiegmann.
Yeah.
Okay, so next game, China-Haiti. Now, Jimmy, you watched the first game with Haiti. I was so impressed. I wasn't alone. A lot of people were so impressed with Haiti. They even went into my top 10. Now, I know that's kind of pushing it, but they stayed there.
Some romanticism around.
There is. And look, the way that they played against England in that first game, I was like, this is a good team. And it's not just my CONCACAF bias or anything like that, but I thought they actually deserved to at least come out with a point. Fair enough, so I put them in there. They were the only team in my top 10 that actually lost the game and still were able to go in there. But now they're done. I mean, I don't want to, I'm not going to, say, oh, just wait till they come out. You know, and I know that Haiti is now out of the tournament, all right? Because not only did they lose, but they lost to China, and they lost to a China that was down a player for a lot of the game. So a horrible night when it comes to Haiti, and Dumonet did not start. That is a big, big loss.
Big talking point. A big talking point.
Yeah, but she comes on and plays the second half, and even immediately when she comes on, she changes the game. And this goes back to something that we talk about constantly in the game. Like, well, you hold off on her because she's not quote unquote 100%. But if it's a 75% Dumonet, isn't that better than what they have?
1,000%. I'm a little disappointed from Nicolas Delapin, the coach of Haiti, who mentioned that she picked up a knock against England. Great, but why wouldn't you? I agree with you. Why not roll her out for, even if she's 75%?
Let her go. Just let her go.
She's 19.
You're asking for one moment of magic.
That's it. And
the game
and the game changed when she came on, and it's a little bit disappointing. They're going to be they're going to be a little bitter because there were a penalty call or two that maybe should have gone their way, but China deserved one as well, and it felt like...
Did you think it all equaled out? Because there were a lot of, I guess, controversial types of calls when it came to the VAR and the way that this referee handled it, and there was a penalty, it wasn't a penalty, and the Haitian fans are all looking at this and saying, hey, we got screwed, hey, we got screwed. Do you think they got screwed?
I think they did if they're looking only through that lens. If they look through China's opportunity, there should have 1,000% been another penalty for China. A few minutes after they got the other penalty, which was a penalty as well. The referee swallowed her whistle on the first one, so when it went back the other way and Haiti probably deserved one, she swallowed her whistle there as well. So I think they were just trying to balance the ledger, as it were. It's not the right thing to do, but it would have been pretty harsh for China had it gone the other direction, and they would have been screwed out of that one that they should have gotten. They're going to have to look at this, FIFA, and really evaluate, because they got this one wrong. But overall, I think you're right. It did balance it out, and I think China were the deserved winners. However, Haiti had plenty of chances in that game when it was still 0-0. They missed a sitter. Zhu Yu, the goalkeeper for China, made a hell of a save. And if that goes in, then obviously I think we're talking about a different result, and Haiti might still be in your top 10, Alexi.
Yeah, well, they're definitely not.
They're not anymore.
Now, but
they're out.
But credit to China, by the way, just winning a game when you're down a player, that's a good job. And and China has, in their World Cup appearances, they have never actually gone out in the group stage. So they always find a way to get out, and they still have everything to play here. All right, before we spin it to what's happening here, again, we're on the set here in Sydney. We're getting ready for a whole other slate of games. Jimmy will get on his makeup and put on his.
I need a lot.
What are you wearing tonight? Anything different, or is this what you're?
No, this is it. I'm going to roll with this.
You look good.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, you look good.
Keep it simple.
Let's take
less is more. Everything.
Yeah, exactly. Let's take it out of the Women's World Cup, and then we'll come back to the Women's World Cup at the end.
Okay.
All right, so look, we talk about this U.S. men's national team, and we talk about American players, especially American players over abroad, through that lens of the national team. And so when we come to find out that Yunus Musah to AC Milan is as good as done, this means that you're going to have a bunch of players playing. Now, Fabrizio Romano, I mean, when he says that it's getting closer and that it's almost done, you got to trust. And he says the deal is in the final stages, and he got there we go, here we go. So this is as close as one can get in terms of being official. Wonderful for Yunus Musah. I've said before that relative to a lot of these American players, even if Yunus Musah wasn't an American player, any team in the world, I think, would be happy and lucky
100%.
to have him in particular because of the position that he plays and the way that he plays it.
Oh, 100%. We love watching him, of course, when he plays for the U.S. I think he's very versatile. When Tyler Adams had been out for the Nations League games, for him to assume the 6 and look relatively comfortable, which I think now brings in a different element of conversation as to we can survive without Tyler Adams. Okay, Mexico, Canada didn't look their best, but we looked excellent. And now with Gio Reyna coming in centrally, it just gives us some more options, and that's all you really want. So when I see him joining Milan, I feel the same way. It's going to give them some more flexibility and allow them to be more diverse in their attack. And where do you start him? Because I thought that Gennaro Gattuso, when he took over Valencia, he did us a solid by pushing Yunus Musah higher up the field. And I think he did Yunus Musah a solid by giving him that freedom, taking off the proverbial handcuffs to, hey, we need you to kind of sit, and now we want you to go. Because I think that's been the knock on his game. Can he bring attacks to completion? Can he finish off with crosses? Can he make that final pass? Can he score goals? And I think we're starting to see a different version of that.
Do you like him pushed higher from a position?
I do, because I'm a romantic.
To start with, or do you like him coming from deep and then having that a part of his game?
He's so good at turning under pressure and holding the ball in tight spots, and then that change of speed to get out of that is excellent. So I think there's a valid argument for having him come a little bit deeper, and I'm very curious to see Stefano Pioli, and if they does come to Milan, where they want him to set up. They got Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who can do similar things, different profile of player, but kind of in the same starting position. So I'm curious to see how that'll all work out. Obviously, his relationship with Christian Pulisic is going to be immense, and that'll be a nice, in terms of where they find each other and how they want to find each other on the field, will be great. It's a great signing. To your point, he's a hell of a player, and he's super young, and he's got a ton of experience in La Liga and for the U.S., and we're not even close to his ceiling, and that's my favorite part about Yunus.
And this also means that potentially 4 players from the U.S. men's national team, and 4 starters, let's be honest, will be playing, and who knows what happens with Weston McKennie, but if he continues on now that he's back with...
He started in the friendly against Milan?
Yeah, so they had the friendly, 2-2 friendly there at the, was it Dignity Health? Is that where they played? Yeah. So, so we got Musah, McKennie, Weah, and Pulisic all over there playing in Serie A, either for AC Milan or for Juventus. Weah also, by the way, when there's initiation types of things. And
as one does.
So I think we saw him singing some Bob Marley at the team dinner. So that's good. And maybe Weston McKennie had something to do with this. So Weston probably just sat back and said, "I'm just going to take pictures of this." There he is. He's up on a table. I think he's got his phone in his hand. So look at him. He's just going to town. We're not allowed to use the audio.
We can't use the audio.
But you can figure it out.
You can feel his energy. I mean,
wow, he's got some gesticulations and all sorts of, it's dinner and a show.
Hey, anytime we had that type of stuff when we were older players on the team, you just want to see the younger players commit, right?
Exactly.
Just commit to the cause. Hey, we're asking you to do something, because I've been with teams, and the players that didn't give it their all, that would show on the field too.
Then they're going to hear about it.
You can't trust them. You can't trust them.
Exactly.
You're going to do skits. We want to see skits.
Open yourself up.
Open yourself up. Be vulnerable to everybody.
Okay, other stuff that's happening. Now, this has been in the air for a while. Chucky Lozano. Okay, so Chucky Lozano, there's rumors flying around that he potentially could be returning, well, not returning, but going to the United States for Major League Soccer with LAFC. Now, Tom Beauregard has said that this is, to use his words, nonsense in terms of the contacts that he has and the information that he has. But this just kind of keeps percolating right now. Chucky Lozano, 27 years old, arguably the best player on El Tri. And in this day and age where we discuss and there's an incredible amount of pressure and criticism as to players coming back to MLS and what that would do for their career and what it says about, in bigger picture, what it says about them, what it says about the team, what it says about the league, what it doesn't say, American soccer, and then obviously El Tri and the national team. If this were to happen, Jimmy, let's just do a hypothetical now, because it might not happen. If it were to happen, do you think that this would hurt Chucky Lozano and therefore hurt El Tri?
That's a great question. I think there was some, let me say it like this. When you think about Chicharito and when you think about Carlos Vela, both in the LA market, right? So there's definitely a thirst to have a Mexican player on either one of those teams for obvious reasons, right? There's obviously a big fan base in that section of the country. I think it depends on who the coach of Mexico is. So right now you have Jaime Lozano, so he's in charge. And if there's some kind of conversations that we're having with Chicharito and Carlos Vela, I know they're on the wrong side of 30, maybe not the right time to pull them back in. But I really do think it comes down to that. So if Chucky wants to come back, then I think you have to have a real talk with your coach of Mexico and say, hey, whatever you think about MLS, let's just put it on the table right now. And if you think this is going to hurt my chances, then let's have that discussion. And if it's not, then this is where I want to go, this is where I want to be. Then it's back on the player. But if it does have some implications as to his national team playing time, then maybe he has to make a different decision.
Whether it's El Tri or anybody else, what does a coach benefit by saying, I mean, if he just made a blanket statement and said, if you're in MLS, I'm not calling you in, okay?
Well, we've seen that.
I know, but
we've heard it.
But probably in a coach's mind, he or she would be saying, I'm doing this in order to make sure that they are playing at the highest level and not letting them, quote unquote, regress by coming to a league that I don't value. And look, it's certainly their prerogative to be able to do that. I just think you're shooting yourself in the foot.
I get it. But that coach could also be saying, I don't want you to go to Belgium, or I don't want you to go to France, or I don't want to, like, you have a nice setup with Napoli. Let's use Chucky Lozano. So yes, I think MLS could be part of that conversation, but I think there are plenty of other leagues where that coach can
But let's be honest, coaches that would say that, if they went to Europe, they don't look at going to Belgium or something like that as the step down relative to MLS. It's literally getting on a plane and flying to North America that then puts them in that view.
I get it. Well, I don't know. Maybe what if Chucky wanted to go to Mexico? Maybe Jaime Lozano would be like, I don't want you to come back either. Like, we want you to continue to cut your teeth in Europe. That's where the best competition is. You can get into Champions League.
Do you think we can see the best of Chucky Lozano if he is not playing in Europe?
I think confidence is a hell of a drug. And if you can get playing time and get confidence no matter where you're playing, then I think that's what matters most. I'm the wrong person to talk to about this, because when I got to play in a World Cup, I only had MLS experience. And I held my own against some of the best in the world.
How is it possible, Jimmy Conrad, that you were able to do it? Playing in this rinky-dink little fledgling league that doesn't prepare anybody on and off the field and is in a country and culture that is not soccer-based, and you can't possibly pass the ball, and you can't even understand the laws of the game because you're American and you play in an American/Canadian league. How is it possible that you, Jimmy Conrad, were able to go to a World Cup and function as a soccer player? Boom!
I just poked the bear, everybody. Yeah, I love that. So yeah, I'm the wrong person to ask with regard to this because when we came back from that World Cup, me and Clint Dempsey were the highest rated players, and we only had MLS experience at that point. And that was the World Cup. It was based in Germany, where all of our European-based guys were they play there. That's where they play. We were gonna do well, and the fine margins didn't go our way in that particular World Cup, and that's what happens. But what I learned in that experience was you're either ready when the whistle blows, or you're not. It doesn't matter what you did before, and it doesn't matter what you're going to do after. Are you ready in those 90 minutes? And I was ready in those 90 minutes.
Damn right you were. God, wonderful. I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, we said we'd kind of go back and forth. Let's turn it back before we get out of here to what's happening tonight.
Yeah.
Sweden versus Italy. Wonderful matchup here in Group G, and the other two teams with Argentina and South Africa. Crazy 2-2 result. So lots to play for here. What are you looking at? Sweden, by the way, this is also potential from a U.S. perspective. We could be facing one of these teams going forward.
Yeah, it's our crossover group. I would say with Sweden, they're the Tottenham of women's national teams.
What does that mean?
They're the nearly team. They nearly get there. They've gotten third in World Cups. They get silver medals. You know, they have the team, they have the talent, they have the experience, but they've never actually gotten to the top. So we'll see if they can do it again. They a little nervy in that first game, having to come back against South Africa, down 1-0 with about 20 minutes, 30 minutes left to go, and they found a way to get that result. Italy, actually, big fan. I think they're continuing to improve, and they're going to be a tough test. They barely got by a very good and plucky Argentina team, I would say. So I think the fine margins are starting to narrow, which is what I love about the women's game right now, is that the gap at the top isn't as big as it used to be, and everybody's getting a little bit closer. But I like this Sweden team. I like this Italy game, and I think it's going to be a good game overall. And whoever wins this will book their ticket to the knockout round. So I like when those implications start to happen in a World Cup.
All right, so if that's the appetizer tonight, then the main course is France-Brazil. And, I think this is a toss-up here. Brazil came out and really kind of stamped their presence and with authority and really put on a show. And I love the way that we saw this Brazil team with this incredible balance of, you know, the magic and the romance and the creativity and the beautiful game that we talk about. But they combined it with a kind of a ruthless efficiency, and that's a powerful combination. That's not always the case when it comes to Brazil, both men's and women's. So whatever they had in that first game, if they can dip back into that, they're going to need to, because this is also a France that is, it's not desperate, but they did not. For example, I was not impressed after that first game, so much so that France, who I actually have going very, very far, I didn't even put them in my top 10. So they kind of have to come back here and justify, at least to me, to others, and maybe even to themselves,
yes,
especially with a new coach, that they deserve the praise and the belief that a lot of people have in this team.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite players in the women's game is Wendy Renard, and she is excellent. She plays for Lyon. For those that don't know, she's won 9 French titles, 7 or 8 Champions League titles. I mean, she's done it all. The most decorated player, or one of the most decorated out there.
4th World Cup now. So
she might not be available tonight, and that will be a big loss for them because Brazil's got so many different weapons. I love Debinha. I thought she did a nice job of staying up high for Brazil and then pulling out wide, which creates space for others. Ari Borges had a hat trick. She plays for Racing Louisville. 12 games for Racing Louisville this season and only 1 goal. I'm just going to score a hat trick in my first ever World Cup game. I mean, that is next level. But
you just said it. You just said it. Doesn't matter what you did before.
I agree.
Doesn't matter what you do anyway.
I know.
Ari Borges said, this is my moment. The whistle blew, and she was ready to do it.
And she took it, 100%. And so there's something different about this Brazil team, and that's exciting because they've relied on Formiga and Marta and Cristiani for so long that now there's this new generation that were inspired by those players to really step up and take that responsibility, and they are a threat. And Debinha, I know she's not a spring chicken, she's 31, but when you have someone of her caliber that can finish these half chances at times and hit at the back of the net, and she didn't even score in the first game, but her impact was felt. They can hurt you in so many different ways. They're definitely one of my favorites.
All right, so that would be the main course, and then a nice little dessert later on in the night.
Versus CONCACAF.
But from a timing perspective, it's when everybody's getting up here. A big old CONCACAF back and forth with Panama and Jamaica here. Now, Jamaica is Bunny Shaw, and Bunny Shaw, as people remember, got a red card in their first game, so she is out. That is a huge loss for Jamaica. But you know, the fact that we actually get to see 2 CONCACAF teams going at it says a lot about what CONCACAF is with all of the teams that we have in it. So how do you see this one shaping up?
Well, it's a huge opportunity for Jamaica. without Bunny Shaw to get 3 points and to continue to stay relevant in their group and put some real pressure on France in particular. They both have 1 point after the first game, after the 0-0 draw. So if they were going to pick a game in this tournament to not have Bunny Shaw, against Panama is probably the best one to do it because they're going to have Brazil last, and Bunny Shaw can come back into the team and be a factor in that one. They have to take this opportunity. Panama, I think they have that just happy to be here vibe.
They're not ready for prime time.
No, they're not. But I think it's a great step in the right direction for them and for their federation to say, this is a really meaningful tournament for us. We're going to invest more into the infrastructure of the women's game. And I think we're seeing that kind of spread around. And that's why I love that they expanded this tournament. I know there was a lot of controversy as to, should they have done that? Is the women's game ready for that? It's clearly ready for that. And I think it's going to, put into high gear these federations putting more money into that side, the women's side. And that's really exciting.
Look, we got a big night of soccer. Before I let you go, just
Yes?
a couple more bigger picture types of questions.
Ooh, I love these.
I mean, look, notwithstanding the fact that there's two guys here talking about the Women's World Cup, but we've been involved in the game, and it's just people kicking a soccer ball. And as I said before, it doesn't matter whether it's men's, women's, or co-ed naked. If people are kicking a soccer ball.
Whoa, when's co-ed naked start?
By the way, ratings. Oh, can you imagine if we put on the co-ed naked World Cup? I'd watch that. Everybody here would watch that. But when we think about the game, when we think about the men's game and the women's game, and there's a lot of people that look at it and say, it's different and it's not as fast or it's not this or anything like that. And I've done this now for so long. I think you get into trouble when you're doing comparing and contrasting stuff.
Do you watch women's tennis?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So do I. I love it.
It's tennis.
I mean, but it's two highly skilled athletes in their respective fields doing what they do best.
No
problem. I love women's tennis.
So give your pitch to people out there. I mean, look, everyone that watches State of the Union is into the game, I think, like us, where we just watch it no matter what. If there's a ball being kicked, we are going to watch it. But give your pitch to people out there that maybe you're saying, it's the women's game, and I don't want to watch it. Or even maybe in a bigger perspective, it's soccer, and I don't even want to watch it. So
I think my big takeaway when I watch the women's game is that they do it because they love to play. They're not doing it for the money, clearly. They're not doing it for the fame. They're not doing it for anything other than their love for the sport and to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And I love that. I love the spirit of that. And I think the men's game has lost a lot of that, or it feels that way. It feels more corporate. But the women's game feels raw and pure, and I love that we're here, man or woman, supporting what they're doing and what they're building, and it's really special to be a part of.
Yeah. Well said, well said. I think we can both, when we recognize that passion and that emotion and the stuff that sometimes has nothing to do with actually kicking the ball and the scores ultimately, and whether it's the tears coming down in the national anthem or what it means to these women to represent their country, and then what it is going to mean. And then many, many years from now, when we are gone, there will be a generation that grew up and say, hey, remember in 2023, I watched this team. And all of that kind of stuff is so important.
Can I add an addendum to that? Because I do want the women's game to get corporate. I want them to get paid. I want them to make money. And I want them to feel as professional as possible.
This cannot be a charity, all right?
I get that.
This cannot be a charity.
I want them to be treated like the professionals that they are. So I want to make sure that isn't lost in the conversation, because I know that things can get minced on social media.
Wait, are you saying that there's a possibility out there that the American soccer public or the soccer public out there would take offense to something you said and maybe yell at you or something
possible.
like that?
It's possible.
Really?
Yeah, it's possible. But that's what I love about it, and that's what I think is so attractive to leaning in and wanting to learn more and wanting to support them so that they can get up to that status that they deserve.
Before we go, you gave me this little this keychain here.
Yes, it's a U.S. Women's National Team surprise bag clip. That is Megan Rapinoe.
There's Megan Rapinoe.
There are 9 clips in total. You can go to talismancaps.com to go find these surprise bag clips. I believe they're
Megan,
Dick's.
how are you? You ready to go?
I hope so.
You seem very rested, Megan.
If she comes
You're
off the
looking to
bench.
come off the bench, but your coach evidently doesn't make substitutions, so it could be a long tournament for you. All right.
Love it.
This is cool. All right, well, I'm going to wear this around here. I got Megan on my on my belt buckle.
Keep it.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for coming in.
Pleasure.
And tell the people where they can find you.
They can find me everywhere at Jimmy Conrad. And then, another shout out for my podcast in Soccer We Trust, ISWT Pod on Twitter. Appreciate you letting me come on and talk some shop with you, Alexi.
Well, you're awesome. You're awesome.
You're awesome.
Keep doing what you're doing. we will keep doing what we were doing here from Sydney. Please download, please rate, please subscribe, please do all the different things that you do when it comes to the State of the Union podcast. Thanks again to State Farm for presenting this. We'll talk to you again tomorrow as we continue to roll on here in Sydney at the Women's World Cup. And until then, and as always, my friends, size the day!